to my YouTube channel. There we go. All right, so this is Introduction to Chemistry 2. It's a lecture and a lab. The lecture will be held on Microsoft Teams, and also I have some YouTube videos that will take the place of some of the lectures. Although we're going to be doing part of the class remotely, the labs will still be held face-to-face at the Rampart Range campus. So you're going to have to come to the Rampart Range campus in order to complete the laboratory section. So things that you're going to need to complete this class, I kind of mentioned that in the blurb here, in my introduction here. I tell you my name and, blah, 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 that the class is going to be taught remotely, and that the labs will be face-to-face, and that you're also going to need Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor in order to complete your exams, which will be written online. And I have instructions that explain how to use Respondus Monitor and Respondus Lockdown Browser at the end of the syllabus. Now, if you're worried about having any kind of limitations with your computing power that you own, the good news is that there are computers at PPCC that you can go to and write your exams on that are equipped with the proper software for you to be able to use Respondus. And if you look under the announcements on our class's D2L page, you'll see that I posted the room numbers in the Centennial campus, the Rampart Range campus, and the downtown studio, the rooms that have the computers with Respondus installed. And I also give you the number of those computers. So it's always an option to go to campus to write your exams. Now, here's some more general information. Our class is Chem 102 175. 175 is our section, and 102 is the course number. We're going to have lectures on Monday and Wednesday. Now, you probably realize right away that since we have our labs on Monday, this poses a problem, because if our lecture time is from 5:30 to 7:20, well, you might be wondering, how am I going to get from my house to the lab if I have lab at 7:30 and Mr. Dion is talking until 7:20? Well, the answer is simple. And the answer is that on Monday nights, I will be cutting the lecture short. So I usually shorten the lecture by about an hour. I usually go from about 5:30 to 6:30 at the latest to give you ample time to drive over to the Rampart Range campus. And of course, for me to drive over to the Rampart Range campus because I lecture from my home. All right. So that is another one of the reasons why I recorded the videos for all of the content, and so that you will be able to listen to me cover every single section of the textbook. There's no stone left unturned where I ask you to simply learn it on your own volition or something like that. Okay, so labs are on Mondays. We're going to talk more about the lab in a little bit. Here are the dates of the course. It runs all the way till early May. Here's my information, my name and my email. Office hours, I put by appointment. You are free to email me anytime you want, and I will always try to find a time to meet with you. If you want to meet with me over Microsoft Teams to answer any questions you might have about the content, or if you are coming to the lab and you want to speak with me in the lab, that's usually a good place to talk face-to-face or mask-to-mask, and I can maybe solve any problems that you have with respect to the content there, okay? Even if you ask me to try to come to lab a couple minutes early or stay a couple minutes late, I can almost always do that. Some important dates you want to keep, some feathers you want to keep in your cap while we're moving along here. The drop date to get your money back is February 4th, so you have to drop before then if you want to get a refund. We have students that drop classes all the time, not just because they find the class difficult. It could be literally Avogadro's number of reasons. Maybe that it doesn't work with their schedule or whatever, but that's the drop date. Before I continue, if you have your microphone on, if you could mute it, I would really appreciate that. The withdrawal date, that's April 19th, so that's a ways away. And then, of course, we have the March break holiday. You can look at the course description in the master course syllabus. It talks and goes into even more detail about the class, and it tells you here what the prerequisites are. I'm going to assume that most of the students, not all, but most of you probably took Chemistry 101, Introduction to Chemistry 1 here at PPCC. So you need to have that background. It also says that you need to have Math 090, which is the basics of algebra, but I'll be honest, we're not going to do barely any math in this class. Only towards the end we'll add up a little bit of ATP and that multiply, NADHs and cytoplasmic NADHs and things like that. But very little math in this class. The textbook that you're going to need for this class is General Organic and Biological Chemistry. It's the 10th edition, written by Catherine Deniston. And if you have an older edition, if you have a 9th edition or an 8th edition, it will totally suffice for this class. There's no reason why you can't use an older used version of the textbook that you can probably buy for a few dollars, okay? You're also going to have to buy a lab manual. Now that there's no substitute for. You have to buy that from the bookstore. It's the General Organic and Biological Laboratory Experiments. Everybody needs a copy of that. And then, of course, you also need an internet connection, and you're going to need some laboratory goggles. Now, in the lab, we do have some loaner goggles, but I would highly recommend bringing your own. All right. What else? You can access our course through D2L. So I'm assuming that you've all logged into D2L at this point. After the break, I'll do a little demo of D2L and where you can find everything on D2L. Sorry about that. Can you still see the syllabus? Can everybody still see the syllabus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I'm sure that everybody who's hearing the sound of my voice, either in live lecture or who is watching this video, is very concerned about grades already, right? Students are always interested in grades. And here are the assignment grades for this class. We have 5 exams. I take your best 4 out of 5, and that makes up half of your grade. We do 8 labs. I'll take the best 7 out of the 8. That's worth 25%. Your quizzes, which is what your homework is. And if you're wondering, Mr. Dion, why don't you just call it homework? Why do you call it quizzes? The reason why I call it quizzes / or brackets homework is because it's found in D2L, and there's no way for me to change the title of the tab from quizzes to homework. So it's under the quizzes tab, and then your final exam. Okay, so that's the breakdown for the grades. And then here is probably, at this point, the most important part of the syllabus for you. Okay, this is our schedule. So you can see that here we are today, January 20th. I'm going over the course introduction. And today we're going to start by looking at chapter 10. You can see that on Monday, I expect you to watch the YouTube video because you can see it is not a synchronous lecture. Okay, if there's not a synchronous lecture indicated, that means that you are to watch the videos that I've posted to my YouTube channel. All right. So anytime that you see a synchronous lecture, we will be meeting on Microsoft Teams. Now, I might add extra synchronous lectures throughout the course of Chemistry 102, but that will be pending, how things are going or whatever. So you can see that right away we have our first exam coming up on February 3rd, and that is going to be graded for you before the drop date. And that is to provide you with some substantial feedback before the drop date to have our first exam. And we'll talk more about that when we get closer to it. I also provide the homework due dates. I just want to, make a big asterisk here. Okay, the homework due dates that are found on here, these are kind of approximate due dates. Where you would get the actual due dates for the homework are in D2L. Okay, so you're going to want to start working on the homework probably ASAP. And that can, again, be found under the quizzes tab. And so homework 10 and 11 will be due somewhere around the 1st of February, but the actual date and the hour and the minute will be found in D2L. All right, so you can see all the chapters we covered, chapter 10, 11, 12, so on and so forth, all the exams, where spring break is. So you never have to ask yourself, where should I be? What are we doing today? All you have to do is print this out, stick it on the wall with a piece of tape, put it on the inside of the windshield of your car, and you'll always know what we're doing in Chemistry 102. So that's our lecture schedule. Our lab schedule is kind of interesting. Now, normally, the labs at Rampart Range hold 18 students, but in order for us to meet social distancing requirements, we've had to split the lab up. So instead of you having a lab every week, essentially you have a lab every other week. Now, you might be wondering, which group am I in, Mr. Dion? Am I in Group A or Group B? I'm going to provide an announcement where I'll or send you an email where I'll tell you exactly which group you're in, and I'm not going to leave you hanging till the last minute. I'll probably determine that in the next couple of days. But generally speaking, I make the first half of the alphabet, group A, and going by surname or last name, and then group B will be the last half of the alphabet. That's generally the way I do it. However, if somebody has a very specific request, I usually try to accommodate that. So again, I'll provide more information about that later. But let's say you were in group A, okay? If for example, you were in group A, we would be meeting next Monday night, January 25th, okay? And what would we be doing? Well, we're doing some lab tasks, and we're going to be doing a drawer check-in and going over some safety rules, and probably doing a little bit of, discussing some topics in organic chemistry and things like that. And then you can see that on February 8th, you have your first official lab, compound properties and reactions. And then you can see that here, if you're wondering, oh no, Mr. Dion, you made a mistake. You put 2 labs on the same day. Well, it's not a mistake. Okay, we do have 2 labs on the same day. And I'll give you more detail about that later. But basically, it boils down to one of those labs essentially being a dry lab where you just have to fill in a few things and there's no wet chemistry for you to do. Okay, so again, if you're wondering which group you're in, I will provide that information in the very near future. So I'm not going to wait until Monday afternoon and tell you or something like that. You'll find out in plenty of time. All right. How to be successful in Chemistry 102. From here on out, the syllabus is pretty FYI. But what I would say is, be sure to attend every class, and be sure to keep up with the videos and keep up with the practice problems, okay? If you look on D2L, under the announcements, you'll see that I put a link to practice problems, okay? And if you go under the content, you can find a link where I cover all these practice problems, or not cover the practice problems, but I give you the numbers of practice problems. So those are practice problems that I handpicked from the textbook for you to look at. So I would suggest doing all of the suggested practice problems in this class. In fact, the best way to master organic chemistry is to simply practice, practice, practice. Do practice problem after practice problem. It is the best way to master the content. If you need help, be sure to ask. What else? There's information here about exams, homework assignments, grading policy. The letter grade assignment for the course is there. And then you can read the rest, which is just, the lab procedures I'll go over that with you in the lab, so no need to stress about that right now. And then at the very end of the syllabus, you'll see that I put the instructions for Respondus Lockdown Browser. Now, what I've done so that you don't have to walk into your first exam, with all kinds of fear and trepidation about your first exam using Respondus, is I have posted, or I will post, if I haven't already, I'll post a practice exam. Oops, I didn't mean to do. I will post a practice exam for everybody where you will have to use Respondus Lockdown Browser. So that will give you some practice with it before you actually step into your first, actual exam. Okay, so it won't be, a total surprise. All right. There we go. So that's a little bit about the syllabus and schedule. Are there any questions about the syllabus and schedule? Any, thing that's bothering anybody about it?
Just a quick question I had about if we need to use the school computers for Respondus.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean that. Do we need to reserve those computers, or can we just walk in and do it?
As far as I understand, Gavin, what I've always heard is that you just walk up and start using them. Okay. What I think happened, and I think this is recording, but whatever, FTW. I think that at one time they may have tried to have some kind of reservation system, but you can imagine what happened. A bunch of people reserved computers and then they didn't show up. So I think that didn't go over very well with the students or the powers that be. So they just said, forget it. When the student shows up, she or he can use a computer by all means. Okay. You know what? I've never had a student go to the college, knock on wood. I've never had a student go to the college and tell me, oh, Mr. Dion, I couldn't get a computer. They were always able to get one. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't stress about that a ton. So yeah, I like going to the college to write an exam. I like the students do that. I think it's a nice quiet place. But if you want to write it at home, for whatever reason, if you download respondents, by all means, you can write it at home. No problem at all. In fact, I have a whole holy host of students who have their own opinions and like to do it their own way. And that's perfectly fine with me. As long as it gets done. That's the main thing. As long as you write the exam, you know, that's what you really got to do, right? Okay. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about the syllabus and schedule. And what else did we cover? We talked about the lab schedule. And let me just see here. Go into here. What I want to. Just give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail here, and I am going to. Oh, fiddlesticks. Give me.
Professor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I took a look at the quizzes tab under D2L, and all of the dates are from last year.
Yeah. I absolutely they are. I have to adjust those. Mr. Dion's a little bit slow in adjusting those, but he will do it. Okay. So I'll get those done ASAP, at least chapters 10 and 11, so you can start cracking on it right away. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me, though. Where was I? Oops. I just wanted to go into D2L with you just for a second. So let me share my screen again. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So I'm going to go into my D2L page, which probably looks a little different than yours because I'm an instructor. But can everybody see my D2L page here? You can probably see my picture in the top right, my very tiny picture. Can everybody see that?
I don't see the picture, but I do see your screen.
Yeah, just my screen. My picture's in the top right. It's a little icon with my head in it. Anyhow, so this is instructor view, but your view isn't that different from this, okay? You might see a few extra files in here or whatever, but you can see the announcements. So it says here, welcome to Chemistry 102. Here's my name. Here's when we're meeting. The syllabus and schedule, chapter 10 video. So if you click on that, it'll take you right to my YouTube channel and a playlist that covers all of the content in chapter 10. If you click on the practice problems, that will open up a list of practice problems. We could even do that. So if we click on that, you'll see that I have a whole list of practice problems from the 10th edition. It probably won't load up in any appreciable amount of time. Anyhow, maybe I'll let you look at that. But anyhow, it should come up, a whole list of practice problems. And again, these are problems that I went through and handpicked for you. So, you know, there are a lot of practice problems in our book. And instead of my students getting totally overwhelmed or something, I went through it and picked them out for you. If you go under the content folder, so I clicked on content. If you go here under syllabus and schedule, of course, that's there. There's the periodic table that you can use for all of your exams. If you go under lecture slides, this is where I have all the lecture slides for every chapter. So you can see that we're going to start with chapter 10, SP 21, that's spring 21. And I have all the lecture slides there, and I have all kinds of other stuff that we'll worry about later. But that's the crux of it. So, you know, especially since the whole pandemic, I do my best to try to communicate with my students using the announcements tool instead of using email. So be sure to log into the class every day and just check the announcements. Now, as one of my students pointed out, if you click on the quizzes tab, we click on that, you can see there's a practice exam 3 and some old homeworks that all have incorrect dates or whatever. But I will update all of those for you. Okay, I'll probably start working on that this evening so that you can get started, you know, practicing as soon as you want. Okay, so there will be no lag time of you sitting around waiting, you know, when should I start practicing? You know, you can start practicing right away. But in fact, I'll probably do that after class. I'll start working on that and just kind of get those dates all organized for you. And maybe have the first practice exam up and running too, so that you'll have that at your disposal as well. Okay. All right. Are there any more questions? Ask me anything.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, you can.
I had Dr. Diaz before, and I was just wondering.
Dr. Diaz, he's the worst instructor at the college. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering if the homework it usually gave us 2 tries before it put in our final grade. Will that be the same for this course too, or?
I don't know. Dr. Diaz doesn't know what he's doing, so I'd have to check. I'd have to check. That's something I'd have to check on. Okay, this is
Okay.
Alexandria, right?
Yeah, Allie.
Yeah, Allie. Let me check on that. I'm not 100% sure if honestly I don't remember if it's a yes or a no. It might be one or the other. It could go either way. But I
Okay.
will check. But I'll just put this bug in your ear, Allie. There are some differences between chemistry 101 and 102, you know, that the college, because at this point, the college wants you to be a little more independent, you know, and things. Anyhow, but yeah, I'll look into that and I'll get back to you about that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Anyhow, the reason I said that is Dr. Diaz is my best friend. So
Oh.
yeah, he and I are best buddies. All right. So that's why I can, you know, make fun of him with, you know, behind his back. Such a gentleman, huh? All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, I'm ready to start talking about organic chemistry.
I have one question.
Shoot, man, go for it.
With regards to the actual homework,
Yeah.
what is the style that's going to go ahead and be asked in? Is it going to be like fill in the blank or multiple
Oh,
choice?
Gavin, it's a litany. It's a plethora of different kind of things. I think a lot of the questions, I'll be honest with you, Gavin, I think most of them are multiple choice.
Okay.
And there might be a few fill in the blank. You know, I don't know if any of you have been in college long enough, probably not, but I don't know if any of you have been in college long enough to remember, oh, what was it? There was an online homework system that I used. Now I can't remember it. Anyhow, there was an online homework system that we used to use in the college, but it was expensive. And so we got a lot of flack for using that. So these homework assignments are actually ones that I came up with, you know, and I recycled them and you know, changed them up a little bit. But I think that most of the questions are just multiple choice. You know, there might be a few things where you have to fill in blanks and things like that, but they're generally speaking not long, arduous questions, you know, of climbing mountains, you know, or anything like that. All right. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I'd like to talk about organic chemistry. I'm going to stop recording though, just so I can restart it. And